Get Pucked. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Get Pucked podcast. Dave, Matt, and Vito here. And gentlemen, how are we feeling this morning?
Hockey's terrible this week. Hockey was terrible this week.
Well, I'm good because I don't define myself by what I see on the screen. You know, I make my own happiness.
A seasoned veteran of watching hockey, I see in Dave. Vito taking the side of the maybe less so. Anyways, what I do want to get to, and obviously Vito is kind of nailing it right then and there. It's been rough. I think it's been rough, Habs fans. Obviously, the team has been real bad this last stretch, and I do want to take just half a second just to apologize. We did miss last week's recording. We were planning to do something. Unfortunately, scheduling conflicts and a bunch of us getting sick led to us not being able to put that out there. So the interesting thing is we were going to kind of talk about this last week, and since nothing changed, I get to keep using the same questions and the same topics. So that was good for me. Jumping into it, however, let me set up the sort of framework of my question that I want to pose to you guys. It's been 6 losses in a row. There's been 4 goals allowed in the first period on multiple occasions. There has been uninspired play pretty much through and through the entirety of these 6 games. There have been large defensive gaps the entire time. There has been near zero offense from the core players. We'll get to the ones that have been producing in a second. But given all that as a primer and whatever else you might be feeling, I ask you this question. What has been the number one thing over the last 6 games that has bothered you the most? There's been a lot to pick from. I'd like to know the number one thing that stands out that every time it's happened, you want to bang your head against the TV or something. Vito, we'll start with you.
Defense. This hybrid defensive system right now at the moment is just not working. It's not. And I know it's going to take time to implement. I know it's going to take time to figure it all out. But at the same time, there needs to be something going on where, I don't know, at some points in the game, can maybe shift to man-on-man just to, get something going. Stick to the basics for certain aspects of the game if you have to while you're still doing the transition. I mean, it's weird when you think of like last year and the year before, Martin St. Louis used to always talk about the concepts and basically getting players' instincts to change in a certain way where instinctively they do certain things at certain times, and they were performing better in those moments than they are right now when they're trying to actually implement the system. So, I mean, get back to the basics and the fundamentals of hockey and then at moments of the game, do that transition that you have to. The other thing that I'm not crazy about right now is the goaltenders have to be better. They do. There's some shots that are going on net that really are like must make saves type of shots, and they're just going right in. Both goalies, Monty and Primo, and it's just it doesn't make sense to me right now. Sometimes you need the goalie to just keep you into the game and build that momentum for you, but it's like every single time they're even going to try to build any momentum, a beach ball can go in, and it just goes right through, and they're both Swiss cheese.
Okay. Would you put defense, as obviously you mentioned at first, defense is like your number one gripe that you have right now?
Right now, that would be my number one thing, but it's expected when you look at how young the defense core is right now. But it's just the mistakes are going to happen. They're going to come, but I still would have expected some improvement, some progression from last year to this year. It seems like they've actually regressed.
Yeah, we've said this last time. Obviously, the season is down from last year, but okay. I think you're going to be there with a lot of people that are talking about the defense or the lack thereof of the defensive play. Dave, what's the number one on your list?
I mean, defense is the obvious one, but I think it all goes to the same issue, which is to me again coaching. And I don't want to harp on this too much because, but
Dave,
it just seems that everything could be traced back to coaching, right? Like his decision making on who goes on the ice. Pardon me if this wasn't this week because I'm a father of 2 young daughters, so the weeks bleed into each other. But like you start Christian Dvorak in overtime. It's just like these decisions, and you don't scratch any veterans. You constantly go back to the same thing that's kind of not working. You do a bag skate, which is like it's 2024, man. Like nobody bag skates anymore. Like that's not.
You didn't like the bag skate?
I don't like the
I
bag
love
skate.
the bag skate.
It's proven. It's proven that stuff is for show, man. They did that for the media. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well, and it doesn't reflect well. It's not the perfect way. The modern day athlete is not built to bag skate like that. I know it's like, okay, suck it up and whatnot, but it's not smart. And when you pile it up with the decisions and you see how they play defensively and you see how it's going, it bothers me a little bit. And I just think that at the end of the day, it's inexperienced coaching. Again, I don't want to say fire St. Louis. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a St. Louis hater. I think there's room to grow, but I think that's the growing pains, right? He's growing with the team as opposed to coming in and growing, like having the team grow under him. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that can be pinpointed back to Martin St. Louis and his system and just the execution. And again, his team is young, especially the defense core. So there's a lot of room for leeway. And like, I'm not saying that this is the doom and gloom and it's the end of the world. It's just right now you watch it and it's frustrating, and his decisions are frustrating, and everything is frustrating to me. Everything that could be traced back to Marty St. Louis, you're kind of just frustrated a little bit.
I think the mistake was there from the start of the season when they said that they wanted to be in the mix this year. Because they said that everybody's expectations
was a massive mistake.
Everybody's expectations changed. If they would have just been like, we're still part of the plan, we're still part of the process of rebuilding, everyone would be talking about try to get that bottom 3 pick. We want that bottom 3 pick.
Guys, they were littered with injuries last year, and like they had all sorts of excuses in the world. There should have been, even if it wasn't their plan, there should have been a natural step forward that took place, and we're not seeing it.
No, but you don't have okay, and again, right? I'm not saying Laine is going to be the savior of the team by any stretch, but he hadn't played a game yet. Your defense is for whatever reason showing a stunted progression, maybe because there isn't the veteran presence there to help these young guys, and they're kind of just trying to figure it out themselves.
Well, it's also because they have one right-hand defenseman right now.
That's a team composition thing, which is another thing to address altogether. But I think like a stat I read, and I might be a little bit off, but I thought this was super interesting. Since trading Sean Monahan from last season, they've played 34 games. They've only won 10. Now, I'm not saying it's because of Sean Monahan, but you had a veteran guy right there in the middle. Every time we talked about him last season, we were saying how he's making all his line mates better, and they don't have that now. And you're trying Jake Evans as your second line center. You're trying all kinds of weird stuff. I just think it's fascinating that Vito says defense, Dave mentions coaching, and for me, it's offense. And so my beef with it is you can lose games being scored on, but like having the other team score 6 goals on you. It's not ideal. I don't like it, but at least score 5. Lose by 1. I'll take that all day, every day. If we're still in rebuild mode, which we are, and we're in the middle of it, which I believe we all agree we are, then there's no problem getting another lower pick again. I think it's only going to help the team, but we need entertainment. We need something to cheer for. You had Cole that was going on fire in October, scoring 10 goals or whatever, but I don't think he's gotten a point in his last 4 games. Suzuki hasn't gotten a point, I think, in his last 5 games. Slav hasn't gotten a point in his last 4 games. I mean, the list goes on. You know who's scoring? Brendan Gallagher.
Yeah. He's going to reach 30, man. He's going to hit 30.
He's on pace for 38 goals, which is never going to happen. And I'm just saying it in jest. Brendan Gallagher is all heart. He's all heart. He is literally that scene from Jerry Maguire. I can't repeat it in its entirety, but you know the one I'm talking about with Cuba Gooding Jr., where he's going back in the bus. I'm all heart. And okay, that's Brendan Gallagher. Jake Evans has been phenomenal too. I think he's been bringing it every game. He does an incredibly hard job.
Right, he's being miscast.
He's miscast, clearly. They're trying things out. I'm all for it. But what he was doing when he was in his right position, he was shutting guys down. He was making offense happen. He was doing things, and it was great. Another guy that you point out, obviously, we always keep throwing flowers at him, Lane Hudson, but he's not expected to do everything. It's nice what he does, and he still has to learn. There are defensive gaps in his game as well, but it is at least entertaining. My beef with the team right now, the number one gripe I have, is that they can't score. They can't score. It's like there's no it's like the chemistry disappeared from the top 6.
But Matt, it's the other issue too is, and I wrote out a tweet on behalf of our podcast yesterday, that if Caulfield and Suzuki and Slav are not getting going in a particular night, there's zero offense because there's still a one-line team. They're just a one-line team again. Now, they went and addressed that by going and get Laney. He got hurt. Kirby Dach is shaking off the rust of not playing for almost a year and a half, maybe longer. So that's the problem. That's why you're not going to get any offense. Every team comes in with the same game plan saying, okay, we just got to watch these guys. So unless Suzuki, Slav, and Caulfield really dominate a game and catch the other players sleeping, that's basically just watch the one line.
But now, I don't even want the wins. If you're going down a path talking to me that if they don't play, they don't win. But they're always going to play against the best. See, that's my problem with that analogy, because it's not like they're the one line and the other team's only game for them. They're going to be the one line
You're not
for
wrong.
The next couple of years.
However, when you have depth and certain assets within your roster, if a certain player is getting cold in one moment, then you could start shifting those players and they all become a scoring threat. In reality, when you look at the Montreal Canadiens right now, after those three guys that I mentioned, there's not really a scoring threat anymore.
No, they're very, very weak in depth, big time. And it's been exposed and it's very obvious. You were hopeful that some of the young guys, we had talks in the beginning of the season, Josh Hua was going to be up here and he's doing great things in the AHL, but he's not here. We had talks that, of course, Line A, but we know what happened with that. Otherwise, who's left? It truly is jarring. They're in a gap year. The problem is truly what was said. I think expectations just skyrocketed when you heard at the golf tournament, we want to be in the mix. We feel we're going to be better. We're going to not bank on being injured all the time. We brought in scoring power. We're not going to have the 3 goalie carousel. Our young guys were rookies last year. Only Lane Hudson is the true rookie this year on defense. We're going to be better. And the product is worse. Well, now, that was expected. If you look at it objectively from a hockey perspective from last year to this year, this could have been expected. The problem is we were all pumped up and we got our tires pumped for this. And now you're seeing it.
I think you're wrong. I don't think it could have been expected, man. Like, it shouldn't be expected. You're supposed to be able to take a step forward. All these guys matured. Every single person matured. You got Kirby Dach back. You're bringing up some guys. You don't have the 3 goalie carousel. You're absolutely right. I mean, literally, you're supposed to take it. You couldn't really have countered for how bad they're playing. They're last place.
Fair. But you could have also. We were all almost guaranteeing progression and it being better. And I think that's where we went wrong. There was at best a 50-50 that Kirby Dach, after being off a year, would come back and torch it, like you had your examples you were talking about in that other episode, like guys coming back from long-term absences and being great. That is not the case. They're putting him on the top line. It is not working. He is still rusty. He is still trying to refine his game. Laine never being able to play a single game in the season so far was unaccounted for, but it happened. The defense not being up to par. We all expected them to be better. We thought Gouli would be on his side.
The defense has called it from the beginning of the season. That I did not like the fact that Gouli was not going to play on the strong side. I was very intrigued about having Lane Hudson there, and he deserves to be there. In terms of if you see what he does on a game-to-game basis. But the real issue on defense, besides the fact that they only have one right-hand defenseman, is the fact that even Matheson is having a real bad start to the season.
Yeah, it's a rough look there too. And speaking of Matheson, you remind me of something. When I say the lack of offense is my biggest gripe, right up there, right next to it, is the fact that I believe the Montreal Canadiens are the team by far, that take that stupid shot from the blue line when they're in the enemy zone, and they don't try to move the puck. It's like, do whatever you can to dish it back to the blue line where there's a defenseman who's going to try to hit that puck through 20 bodies and try to get it in. They do it more than any team I watch that they play against. It is something they do routinely. It is something that is obvious. And the worst part about it is something they're not good at. And I don't know why they do it. Now, you can make the argument.
They don't have a shot at the point to be able to go through that.
So why do you keep doing it?
And where
that drives me up the wall.
But what does that come back to? Just to circle back. It comes back to coaching, man. That's what it is. And I agree with all the points you say and everything. And like, it's just they don't have that punch to them either. Like, they seem listless on a lot of nights, which is like yesterday, David Savard, you could say what you will, but like, it was a pitiful performance, with Domi there. Like, it's just absolutely, it bothers me a little bit how they're playing. Not only like their performance, but how they're playing themselves. Like there just seems to be no life to them, and I think that's a problem somewhere down the line. And it's like these are young guys who are supposed to be wanting to prove to the world and light the world on fire, mixed with veterans who, if they want to stay in the NHL at a point, also have a ton to prove, and nothing's coming of it. And so what's the problem? You know what I mean? Like I don't believe that any of these guys for a second don't have that don't have the potential to be what they want to be. So there's something that's happening somewhere in blockage, and it's whether it's the system, whether it's the coaching, I don't know what it is, but there's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are out there and they're trying to point the finger blame, right? So like you're obviously taking the stance that the brunt of the blame should fall on the coaching, and it's the coaching that is currently lacking. They're being outplayed, outcoached. They're making baffling decisions. They're not moving things around in a way. So Dave believes his coaching. Vito, are you the same mindset, or do you think the accountability should fall more on the players? And that they, coaching can be whatever. That, like in particular, that last game was rough. That was the worst we saw. They looked lifeless.
At this point, it's both. I'm going to take a line that Dave's used often in the past, is that they're professionals. They're supposed to come in and be pros and not go on the ice basically acting like, this is another loss. Because that's what, sadly, that's where it seems like it's heading. They're heading in Buffalo Sabres territory of last year or in the year before, where they were going into it and almost like they were used to the losses. Well, go in there, fight tooth and nail, and go for a win. Now, we can't expect everybody to be a Brendan Gallagher, to have the heart of Brendan Gallagher. People have said it. I remember Ray Ferraro once saying it on TSN 690, is that if only every player had Brendan Gallagher's heart, right? Now, I get it. You don't have it. But to go in there, you should still show up every single game. Now, from the coaching aspect of it all, it's starting to show that I like Marty St. Louis. I do. I still think he's the right coach for this team at the stage that they are right now. But he needs a bit of experience behind the bench with him. He needs somebody that is going to be there and even maybe stop him at a moment and give him some pause to think about, you sure you want to go with that? Just something. Help him with the power play. Give him the guidance and all of that stuff. Some veteran guy that could make him think twice before he puts out a Dvorak in the overtime. Or maybe one that's going to look and say, hey, Matheson's been having a rough go on power play 1, but Lane Hudson's been really killing it. Give him the power play 1 duties for now until Matheson could figure out and find this game on power play 2 and play against probably a weaker penalty kill line on the other side. A slightly weaker one. Try to put these guys in a position to succeed. But at the same time, it's up to the players to put themselves, once they're in that position, to take advantage of it. And you seize that opportunity. And right now, I'm not seeing it from anyone. Everybody's just going on the ice and just doing their, quote unquote, doing their job as a hockey player and just being on the ice. Even when you see the loss and they're walking into the dressing room, nobody's really mad. They're just walking in like, okay, it's another day.
Yeah, that and the snappiness to the reporters and the smugness, like it adds up to something being like off a little bit from this team that you don't expect. They're a young, fun team. That's the way I see it. They're supposed to be fun. You have Lane Hudson, Cole Coffin, all these young guys who are supposed to be, and it's frustrating to see. And Coffin's had a great start of the season. Don't get me wrong, and you can't take anything away from him. But again, the consistency for him has always been the biggest question mark, and it's relied on to do everything.
You could tell that it's very heavy in the room right now.
Yeah,
you could tell, and I think part of the problem is that message that was sent out earlier on in the season, where they wanted to be in the mix. It's almost like these players put that kind of pressure on themselves, and they can't live up to it. So because they can't live up to it, they keep causing more and more mistakes because they're trying to live up to that space rather than last year. It was just like, go build yourselves, instincts, get the wins, just work hard, have fun. Now it's like, about that being in that mix. And you know what? Just like the players seem to be carrying themselves that way, even the fans are carrying themselves that way and carrying the team that way. It's all tied together. And in reality, it's still a rebuild year. It really, really is still a rebuild year, whether people like to admit it or not. We're only in year 3. And the other aspect is that you have to think of it is that all of the players that Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, the scouting staff have drafted haven't even hit the team yet.
Yeah, but at the same time, you say that, yet you can't take away from the fact that this isn't year 1 of the rebuild, right? We are halfway through. You're in the middle of what you expect to be for the rebuild, and you expect to see the product to be at least entertaining. Like
Not
I
while they
said,
have these
I
dead
don't
punters
care
on the
about
bench.
wins. The wins don't bother me, or the reality is that they've lost 6 in a row at this point, something they didn't even do last year. And we know about last year and how bad that was. So they've now done something that they didn't even do on last year's team, which was pretty bad. So the wins, however, wouldn't be so bothersome if they weren't so outplayed. And if there was at least some level of intensity and spark, something there. I don't know, like, okay, so for example, people are saying, okay, well, you know what, they're only humans and expect this when every game you leave the first period and they're trailing by like 2 goals every single time, and that's gonna wear on you. And yeah, sure, it's gonna wear on you, but where is your drive? Where's your accountability to say I have to do better? They always say the same shtick at the end of every game. It's on us. We got to dig deeper. We got to find better. And I understand that that's
they're
just
right.
But they're not.
Right.
But they're not doing it. You have a handful of guys that are out there that you see that are busting their asses tooth and nail. You see it game in and game out. And what concerns me is that when your leadership, when your top quality guys are kind of nonchalantly out there, and they're not, the intensity is not there. And like, you play one of your biggest rivals the other night. And I understand a lot of these guys are new to the team, but when you don the colors, you take on the history, and you know what it means to play against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you're out there and you're not overly physical, and you're not trying to get a little bit more.
Who do you expect on this roster right now to be
anybody?
No, but
anybody.
Who do you expect on this roster to be
I
physical?
don't care. Anybody.
You have
something.
They're facing a team that's at full maturity, that are trying to contend for a cup, and you have this team right now, the Montreal Canadiens, that are lost. They're lost at sea right now. And again, it's going to come down to whatever system they're trying to implement, and again, coaching. Because when you think of it, a lot of the personnel that's there today was the same personnel that was there last year, and it looked like they were more successful last year than this year.
At the very least, towards the tail end of last year, it looked like things were gelling a bit, and they were kind of like engaged more, and the games were closer. They were still losing, but again, there was something to it. And Slav was going, and Suzuki was going, and things were good. There were players that you can get behind and cheer. What I don't like to see is that they're browbeaten, beaten down, and instead of anger, it's heads down, skating off. Here's another one. And I think that's the biggest problem that fans see. You want to see your team engaged.
And historically, no matter what happens in the season, usually the Habs Leafs games, Habs Bruins are games people step up for, and that's how legends are made in Montreal, man. Like, and in these cities, you look at Timmins, right? Timmins hasn't scored a goal since I think December of last year, and he dances around Anderson and scores a goal. It's like moments like these you see in these situations. You see guys like this step up and do great things. You see Montembeault make freaking 700 saves in opening night, and they step up in these situations. That's what these situations are made for. These are character-making games, and to see the performance last night of what happened, it's sad a little bit. That's just my and it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, and it doesn't mean it can't be corrected. But
no,
it's
of course not.
Performance, and it's definitely you have to point to that. And you can't just let stuff like that slide.
Do you guys think that this is going to be their lowest point of the season is right now?
I'm hoping so, yeah.
I hope so.
I can't be much lower than this, guys. Like, honestly, the way they're playing is awful unless they get hit with a bazillion injuries, okay? Like, and then the excuse comes, it's fine. Yeah. But when they're kind of a full team like they are right now, like, this should be the lowest part of the season. There's so much room for improvement by absolutely everybody on this team.
And it could be that they'll lose another 6 games or 7 games in a row later in the season. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I hope this is the lowest low from the intensity and the engagement of the team. I hope something happens where they either like for example, the accountability of the veterans. Right? A lot of people talking about this. And you saw Anderson play a terrible game yesterday and get danced around, like you mentioned. You got Dvorak with the terrible plays that he's been doing. The veterans that are out there that aren't performing, we haven't had a healthy scratch yet this season for these guys. Now, I don't know. You can make the argument one way or another. If you scratch him, who are you putting in his place? Fair enough. But does a message need to be made for these guys or not? Because it seems like everybody gets a pass.
Well, look at the veterans they have. They're not what I would call quality veterans. for the most part. There's a few exceptions, but they're not quality. So even if you scratch them and they come back, Armia was scratched how many times last year and even sent down and whatnot. When he came back, it was still Armia. You know what I mean?
He came back and there was a little bit of spark to him, but
yeah, but it's
I'm
the
just
same
asking
thing with
the
that
question,
guy,
saying
right?
to
You
say
know what I'm
I'm
saying?
not.
Dvorak, even if you scratch Dvorak, what are you going to get back when he comes back?
It's not about him. It's about the message.
It sends a message.
I get it sends the message, but the
So
real veterans
it
at
doesn't
this
matter.
Point,
it doesn't
it's
matter.
It's not that it doesn't matter. It's just that you're not gonna. I don't think it's gonna generate the spark that you're looking for because it's not the kind of veterans that you're gonna scratch. You'll be like, when they're gonna come back, they're gonna really, come out and really get strong.
I think give it fair to say, and this is, I believe, the worst game the other night I've seen Nick Suzuki play, perhaps ever. It was very bad. And he kind of glided around and he didn't look engaged and he's wearing the C. I'm a huge Nick Suzuki fan. But, and I'm never suggesting you're going to scratch your captain. This isn't Philadelphia. We don't have torts. He's not, MSL's not doing this. But to your point, there are other guys on the team, and I don't believe that you're doing it for them. I think you got to do it to make a message. You have guys that are banging on the door in the AHL. You got Barry Boulay, who can easily come up and play. You got Joshua, who can come up and play. You got guys that are putting in the dues down there, and then you got guys sitting up here that are playing like that. I'm not a huge believer in scratching myself, scratch to begin with. You know what I'm saying? But at some point, I buy into it a little bit. I hear what people are saying. A message must be given. You have to do something. Otherwise, you just keep doling out the same thing. And whatever.
This might be a bold take, but if there's somebody I would scratch right now, it's not necessarily a veteran because, again, I don't believe it's going to do anything. I think there's benefit. There's some kind of benefit to scratching somebody like Kirby Dach right now. From a rest perspective, from seeing the game over the top, I would say Kirby Dach right now wouldn't be a bad idea to scratch him. Not as to penalize him for his game.
I disagree with you on that one.
I also disagree. I think you have to see more of Dach. I think Dach has to be put in every single position because you've got to evaluate if he's going to be your 2C, and you're going to evaluate if he's even going to be on your team going forward. I don't see
the other problem, if I could just switch pace a bit, is there's too many players that are miscast in this right now. Newhook being on the second line and doing what he's doing. Dach is definitely
pretty good though.
He has, but
he's not a second line player.
He's not a
second line center, but out of everybody who I could put a finger at, he's actually one of the guys that's been playing pretty hard.
He may have been drafted as a guy to potentially be a second line guy, but he's not. Even when you saw him last year when he was playing, he was excelling more on the third line, bringing certain elements to that third line than he is on the second line. And the fact is that right now the biggest one of the bigger concerns, and we were questioning it a couple episodes ago, is who's the 2C? We're running a team.
They don't have one.
Well, and that's Matt. You're the one who brought it up a few episodes ago that they put in all their chips when they went and acquired Kirby Dach to be the 2C.
And I'm not saying he can't be that 2C.
He's just not right now.
He's not the 2C right now. So to answer the question today, they do not have one. You hope that Dach can find his legs in his game and his intensity, and you hope that after another year of playing hockey, start next year, maybe he can do it again and get the flashes we saw like we did the other year in the beginning. But right now, they do not have a 2C.
But this is a perfect example of all the fans that wanted, they were pro-tank and wanted to get rid of Sean Monahan to get whatever asset you can and this and that and whatnot. And I felt that at the time, having somebody like Sean Monahan, maybe not necessarily Sean Monahan, but somebody like him, was a stopgap for Kirby Dach to eventually become the 2C and teach him certain things and mentor him. And right now, there's nobody. There's nobody to take that place when somebody like Dach is not performing.
But Sean Monahan, I mean, again, right? Let's not go down this road too much because you couldn't ever get him at the price you would need to get him at, and for the term you'd want him. Yeah, perfect world. Sure, you signed him 2 years.
That's why I said like him.
Yeah, it would have been great. They weren't out there. They weren't out there to get.
Christian Dvorak ain't it.
Christian Dvorak is on borrowed time. Okay, he's gone. There's not a chance in on anyone's life they're re-signing this guy. He's gone. It's done. And I mean, all due respect to him. Okay, hopefully he goes to another team and hopefully he can find his game again and go put up his 48 points like he was doing in Arizona. For whatever sick reason that he can't pull up at least 40 points here, I don't understand it. But he can't. He's gone. You have Jake Evans you got to re-sign next year because clearly they're going to re-sign him. And he can maybe be a 3-4 guy bouncing back, which means you got to bring a guy in who could be the other guy 3-4, and you need a true 2C. True. Now, you got Michael Hage, who's a little bit ways away from coming in. Some people think can do the gig, but he's a little ways away. So what do? You have New Hooks, who we all agree isn't the right guy. You got Doc, who's still hopeful, and you hope maybe next year can come and do it. But if he can't, you got a gap again.
It's crazy. 15, 16 games into the season, and we're talking about next year already.
It's the nature of the beast. Listen, again, for the people listening, going here too, I don't want you guys to think that it's just a bunch of Debbie Downers here. I mean, it sucks. I'm sure all of you, all those that are watching, are not enjoying this hockey. It's not just about the losses. You like to see some wins for sure. And even if your team tanked, okay, losses, yay, fine, no problem. But the gameplay, the execution on the ice, the missed assignments, the just complete confusion you witness, the sheer amount of goals they're being scored on.
Like the season's already
bad.
over.
It's they're not
like
fun
the season
to watch.
Is already over. And last year and the year before, last year and the year before, even when they were losing, we used to say, hey, at least they're playing entertaining hockey. I mean, we said that a bunch of times.
That's all you want.
It's not entertaining. I think there was a stat that had came out, I think it was on Jornada Montreal, where they were saying that the viewership right now is at an almost all-time low. Historically, it's at an almost
blame anybody.
No, I don't.
I mean, really,
I don't.
Listen, I want simple things in life. Okay, I want Slaf back on the first line, and I think it's ridiculous he hasn't been there in the longest time. And they're trying weird combinations. Get him back on the first line with Caulfield and Suzuki, and run that all year. Don't ever touch it again. Your second line, you got Doc. Make it work. Figure it out. Work on your face-offs. Do whatever. Get him in the middle. Move him to the wing. Same thing with New Hook. And plug somebody up there. I like to see Joshua Roy come back up and get a call. I like to see a guy like Anderson take a seat for a while. Dvorak take a seat for a while. Bring up Condotta if you want to plug him in as forward. Move Evans up on the third line and just play.
Okay, coach.
Now, well, listen, I would love to be, but I don't pretend to know as much about hockey in as much as like a fleeting moment in MSL's career. He knows more about hockey than I'll ever will in my lifetime. But, however, I don't know who he's talking to. I don't know what he sees. I don't know how he's doing it. Today's comment before, I like the bag skate personally. I like that kind of old school methodology. I think for whatever it's going to do, I'm all about messages. Send the message. Let the team know I expect more. If you're not going to give it out in the game, I'm going to burn it out of you after in a bag skate. Sure. But do something and then stick with it and show some practice that we can see in Brassard that you're implementing, because it looks like it's disconnected. It looks like they're doing stuff in one place and they don't produce it on the ice. It's like they just forget. So for me, that's all I'm asking for. Lose every game. I really don't care, but lose the game by a goal. Be entertaining.
That's going to attract some comments.
No, but for real, because at the end of the day, if you're looking at the team right now, we're clearly missing players, and your best bet is to draft. It's always the best and most secure way. I don't want to be team tank. And you can go back to the tapes and go and look. I thought at the onset of the season there was a chance. I bought into what management said that they would be in the mix. Crazy things can happen. I was like, let's do it. We're now a month in, and if they're gonna stay the same way, if this is how it's going to be, then all I ask for is make the games entertaining, and then you can lose all of them. I don't care. However, if they are going to fight and they are going to change, I'm all for it. But am I for it? And this is where I want to ask you a question. If they start to trend upwards again and they start playing better, are you for, like some are suggesting, that they go and make a trade to help the team today?
As long as it's a trade that goes with the plan that they have. As long as it's a trade that's in the, in the Laney mold, in the sense that it's somebody that's in that 26, 27, at most 28 range, not somebody that's like a 33, 34, 35-year-old type of player. It has to be somebody that fits the plans going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up.
Maybe go for maybe it's a young veteran. Like technically, you look at Laney's age; he's considered a young veteran at this point in today's NHL.
For sure. I think you have to go. You always have to be looking. I'm always a big believer in that. I think you're constantly trying to improve your team. That has to make sense for the long term, obviously, and what they're trying to do. But I think there's plenty of guys who would fit into that mold. So I'm all for going out and making a move to improve this team. You should always be looking to do that. I don't know if there's going to be too much out there right now at this time. We're looking probably after Christmas, maybe that's probably more realistic. But other than that, I think that there's definitely room for improvement on all fronts on this team, and you figure it out.
I think if I were the Habs, I'd be looking, honestly, I said it last episode, I'll say it again. First, try to shore up the defense, and maybe go look at somebody like Rasmus Andersson right now.
Well, there's names that are out there that recently hit the waiver. I mean, could be an option. I don't know. I mean, it's potential.
It's not the names that I've seen. It's not enough, in my opinion, to really shake up things a little bit. That's why I'm bringing up somebody like Rasmus Andersson. Honestly, if it were me, I'd be dangling a Matheson for an Rasmus Andersson, because you're basically swapping. I'm not saying directly, but I'm saying not trading them two directly. But I would move Matheson out somehow, some way, to bring in Rasmus Andersson. Now you got somebody on the right side who could produce at a 45 to 55 point pace. And at least you strengthen the right side, and you could put Cooley on his strong side now.
I'm going to go ahead and say that's a bold take. I'm going to go ahead and say that.
Go for it. Because right now,
I think that is a very bold take.
The Habs got too many left-hand defensemen, and one of their players that is part of their future plans is playing on his is not playing on his strong side.
Yeah, I'd love for Cooley to get on his proper side. I that's for sure.
Move out of position of strength for a position of weakness, and make the moves that are necessary to get there. And if you look at Rasmus Andersson, he just turned 28. It's a year more than I would have liked, but it's like the max. He just turned 28, and he's been around in the NHL long enough. He's been through the ups and downs of the Calgary Flames. He literally, I think, would be a great addition. He's a right-handed shot who's productive as well.
Yeah,
and I think he could add a calming presence to the back end. Is he a Shea Weber? No, he's not.
Are you prepared to pay what it's going to take? You got to pay.
Montreal's got the depth and prospects to make it work. On top of that,
so your answer is yes. You're prepared to give up quite a bit. Then.
I'm not prepared to give up Montreal's first overall pick this year.
Maybe not this. First
round pick this year. At this rate,
you never know.
I mean, right? I'm not willing to give that up. But remember, we have Calgary's first round pick. Maybe it could go back again the other way.
Listen, I think it's interesting. It's an interesting take you have there. I'd be curious what the commenters are going to say about that, because a lot of people don't like Mike Matheson. So maybe they're on board with what you're saying. I'd be curious to know. I did want to do one last thing here, just because it seems that this has been quite the downer of an episode, and it's negative, and it's been our 100th episode. So I want to take half a second just to acknowledge that and thank everybody for listening and being with us over the last couple of years that we've been doing this. It's mean a lot to us. We've been having a lot of fun doing it. We do enjoy the back and forth with everybody, and anybody who takes the time to listen to us three talk about hockey. It blows my mind. From 1 to 100 to 1,000, it doesn't matter how many we get. We appreciate any and all of you who take the time to listen. So I just wanted to take this one moment to say, can we end on a positive, please? And can you give me one positive thing that we can not talk about necessarily, but just end the episode on, that you've seen with the team or something? I mean, it could be Gallagher if you want it to be Gallagher. I know Vito's probably Gallagher because he's still holding on for that 30-goal season. But something, tell me one positive. Oh, boy. Guys, come on.
Vito, take your Gallagher.
Lane Hudson.
Doesn't even take Gallagher. Lane Hudson. Okay. Lane Hudson's play has been fun and exciting. Yep. It's fair.
He's among the top in the NHL for possession and rushes.
Third behind Makar and Quinn Hughes, right? Yep.
Yeah. What does that do for you, though? I hate those stats.
Don't take his positivity away, Dave. Okay. It's positive. He likes it. He's happy.
He's fun. He definitely brings that element of watchability that the Habs lack.
Yeah.
He's getting Leafs fans to troll. Oh, look what he did here. Look what he did there. They're not trolling about anybody else.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Okay.
It's fun. It's all in the fun, and he seems to he'll be a good fit on this team. He just needs to score a goal. Please, just more.
Yeah, he's got to work on that shot, because
get it over.
His shot is like, I don't know. It's Yannick Weber levels.
Whoa. Okay.
End
on a positive.
All right.
Relax. Lane Hudson, very good, very fun. Dave?
I'll take Gallagher, man. I like what I'm seeing from him. You know, you wonder if it's possible. I mean, I don't think that they can move him.
Move him. End on a positive. What is going on with you two? Although that would be, I mean, we had talked about this in the past. He's like,
it would be interesting.
Possible move.
Every veteran guy has one real good season before the massive decline happens.
Yeah, well, there you go.
He chose the wrong season.
If there's any time to move him, is now. But for sure, man, like, what, he has 7 goals now. He's exciting. He's fun. He's the only guy out there that you really see working. And I mean, it would just make me so happy if we could score 30 goals.
I think he's second on the Habs in goals.
Somebody tabulated, I forgot exactly who was in the tabulation, but he has more goals than the combined total of like Slav, Suzuki, Matheson, and it's like 2 more players. It's like crazy. I don't remember exactly who. I wish I had the tweet and I kept it, but okay, but that's good. Yeah, Gallagher to me right now is the only thing that you can really put your hat on. I mean, come on. It's just such a fun thing to see. He's a warrior. He's got 3 games in a row that he scored a goal. I mean, this is a guy that we were joking whether he can even get 5 goals again in a season. Vito with his comical 30-goal prediction. So to me, it's
I hope he hits it.
I hope he does. He's going to kill us.
So happy if he
it's going to be so bad. So yeah,
Dave will owe me a meal.
Oh yeah, I think we both will. It was such an outlandish thing you said, and yet here we are. Anyways, okay, thanks for that, boys. Thank you for everybody for listening. Please let us know in the comments below too. One positive that you see in all of this darkness that's out there right now. It'd be nice to just kind of keep a little bit of positivity in the community amongst the fandom. And of course, let us know your thoughts as well. Who does the responsibility you believe fall on? Is it coaching? Is it more the players? What would you do to maybe drive a spark in the team? Should certain veterans be healthy scratches? Should they call guys up? Leave it as is. We're always interested to know what you guys think about it. Let us know in the comments. Please consider liking and subscribing as well if you haven't. And I believe that brings us to the end of this one. This was episode 100. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for this. We don't plan on stopping. So hopefully you like what you hear, and we'll be here for another 100. Fingers crossed. For Dave, Vito, I'm Matt, and this was
Get Pucked.